In this lesson, we'll look at using fixed positioning to position elements on our page. Fixed positioning acts very much the same as absolute positioning, with one major difference. With absolute positioning, the positioning values that you provide in your CSS rules are relative to the next parent element on the page. If there is no parent element on the page, the browser looks at the HTML tag itself, which is essentially the browser window. With fixed positioning, we are looking directly at the browser window itself. We are not basing our positioning changes on any other element or the lack of any other element. We are specifically saying here is where we want our item and here's where it should go. So in this lesson, what I'd like to do is take a look in the Chapter 8 folder in the Images directory and see this little image of the Space Shuttle, which I'll bring up in Photoshop or perhaps Preview or Paint on your computer. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to see this image of the Space Shuttle inside my HTML page. And I'll open the lesson_07_home HTML page by dragging it onto my Firefox icon. And I'd like to see that image of the Space Shuttle on the left-hand side of this page. I don't want to see the whole image, I just want to see essentially the nose and leading edge of the wings coming in on the left-hand side of the page. We'll use fixed positioning to lock that image in that space. So to get started, I'll open my HTML file and the accompanying CSS file in TextEdit, which is my HTML editing tool, by dragging those files onto the TextEdit icon. And as we've done before, we'll position that image of the Space Shuttle on our page by using a div tag with an ID attribute. We'll define the ID in our CSS rules and make reference to it with an attribute in our HTML file. Again, I'll come into my CSS file and find the area where I control layout and formatting, and I'll add another rule. This time I'll add it at the bottom because this is an extra. It's not necessarily the main layout of the page, but it's layout related. And I'll create a new ID, and I'll just call that Shuttle. And type an opening curly bracket to begin my rule, and type a closing curly bracket. And now, as we've used before with absolute and relative positioning, we'll use the position property, except this time with the value fixed. As we saw before with absolute positioning, we can use left, right, top, and bottom to pass location information to the browser to tell the browser where we want our item to be positioned. I would like this image to come in on my page 200 pixels down from the top. But since I only want to see the nose of the image, I want to shift the image essentially off the page. So I'm going to shift it from the left, not inward, which would be a positive value. I'm going to shift it left side, which will be a negative value. So, from the top, we said we'll move the image down 200 pixels. And from the left side of our page, we'll shift the image negative 80 pixels. Now I'll save my CSS file before I do anything else. Save, save, save. Save often. It's only when you have something that you like, that you worked on for a long time, that you haven't saved, that your computer will crash. Now, I'm going to come down and find my opening body tag. That tells me where the beginning of my page contents start. Since we're using fixed positioning and we want to position our element on the page based on an exact set of coordinates relative to the browser window, I'm not concerned about any of the other elements that are on my page. I only want to get this shuttle HTML reference into my HTML code. And because of that, I'm going to put our shuttle div tag right inside the body tag because it doesn't matter what else is on the page. Fixed positioning is just going to look at the browser window and put the item where you tell it to go. So within the body tag, I'll create my opening div tag with an ID set equal to shuttle. Within my div tag, I'll create an image reference which looks in the images directory and finds the image space shuttle.jpg and close quote space / close caret. And I'll close my div tag, take out a few of those extra lines, and I'll save my file. Now, if I switch back over to my web browser and hit the reload button, now that image of the Space Shuttle is on the page, and it stays on the page in that position as I move within my page. The position of that element is relative to the browser window, not the elements contained within my page. And as such, it occupies the same space on the browser window, regardless of what I'm doing.